So what is it? It's holding you back from the thing that you want most. When it comes to the business struggles, the challenges that we have in our personal life, related to our health, related to our relationships, sometimes we have this really powerful goal and we feel compelled to go out there and get it. But then all of these little challenges and road bumps and speed bumps and obstacles and all of these things start to pop up. And if you've read anything from Ryan Holiday, he talks about the obstacle is the way. And what we want to help you guys do here on this exclusive Inner Circle call is actually dive into some of the challenges that you're going through right now so that you can make them your superpower. So many other people are out there who are struggling through this same thing and they don't have a community, or they're not willing to lean into the community and get the support they need. But you guys are here and you're ready to go and you're ready to beat these challenges, and not only beat them, but have them make you stronger. How many of you guys have businesses and you have opportunities because you've actually gone through some challenges and some things where it felt like you got knocked down 8 times and you had to get up 9. And on that 9th time, you actually were able to get through that thing. And now people come to you as the go-to person to help them through it because you've actually been through it. Regardless of what struggle you're going through, that's what we're going to empower you to do today. Now, how we're going to do that is we always dive into 3 different aspects around tackling a challenge. I've noticed a lot of times when I tackle a challenge with 1 or 2 of these aspects, I actually am not able to not only create a solid plan, but actually follow through with it. That's why today we're going to hit all 3 areas. We're going to be talking about number 1, the mindset. How we think of things matters. The energy that we bring to that thing is entirely different when we reframe it as an opportunity. The second thing is the tactics. It's pieces that maybe we have done before, things that our clients have been through that we're going to be able to help use here on this call to be able to give you some recommendations and some steps to take afterwards. The third piece being accountability, which means getting yourself to show up, being able to put it out to the world, whether it's here in the chat, whether it's like actually posting it inside of our app, doing something that puts it out into the world will help you show up and to take action. And that's what we're going to do today. We're going to crush all of these challenges. So for those of you guys who are live, we're going to definitely pull out any of the challenges you guys are currently going through and be able to help you. And then we have a lot of questions that we've asked inside of the app to really tackle first. But before we do that, we have to, I guess, remain centered with our core values, because at the core of this, all of these things matter for a reason, and we need to identify those core values. So we're going to dive in and do that now.
Welcome to the Inner Circle. We are proud to be on this mission with you. What mission is that? We believe that you don't have to sacrifice one area of your life to have massive success in business. We believe that what you achieve on the outside is a direct result of what you become on the inside. We believe that growing your business should never come at the expense of nurturing your family. We believe taking personal responsibility is the key to changing the outside circumstances. And we believe that your physical and mental health is the most important element to sustain your success. Thank you for being here and for being willing to lean in and be the modern leader the world needs now more than ever. You ready to do this? Let's go.
All right, so I guess everybody gets a bonus access into the Inner Circle today, because apparently Mark accidentally made this go live to everybody on YouTube.
And so you get some tech difficulties.
But you get some bonus access here today. So many incredible people. We have Shelly, we have Tina, we have Trisha, Aaron, Cheryl, Cynthia. Good morning, Cynthia. Trisha. I think I said Trisha. We got a lot of Trishas in our neighborhood. They're awesome. Guys, welcome to the call. So what we do inside of the Inner Circle is every other week we have a workshop where we get to dive deeper into some of the things we can do to help you around building a business you love, connecting with your family, and making your physical and mental health a huge priority. So if you look at anybody who's here on the screen, who's got a green name on, those are people from our Inner Circle. Accidentally set this up in a way that made it go stream to everybody, but we're just going to roll with it. We're going to roll with it. So super pumped to be here with you guys. Thank you so much for always leaning in, from people who've been here for years, for people who've literally just signed up today. We appreciate you so much. We want to do whatever we can to really help serve you here today. So here's what we're going to do. For those of you guys who are here live, and of course, we are only going to be answering questions from the Inner Circle, just so you know. We want you guys, as you are going through this, if you have a question that comes up, we want you to type 4 question marks and then type your question or your challenge or whatever it is that you're responding to in the chat if you need, or it's something that you want me and Teresa to answer for you, okay? Now, how we do this is I collected a whole bunch of different questions that people had from inside of our app that we get, or that you get access to if you're part of the inner circle. So those we will definitely hit, but we want to make sure that we really help for you guys who are here live with us today, okay? So generally there's 2 questions that we like to ask you to see how we can best help support you on this mission to really crush your personal and your professional goals at the same time without like having to sacrifice your family time, right? So I really want to hear from everybody today. Which one of these questions speaks loudest to you and what your response is to these questions, all right? So the first question is related to your personal or your professional goal. What's a specific challenge that you're facing that you'd love to get some help from me and Teresa today? So based off of your goals, the goals you want to accomplish both in your personal and your professional life, what is a challenge that you're currently facing right now that you'd love to get some help from us? The second question, and you can pick one of these, whichever one speaks loudest to you, is what is a specific question that you've been meaning to ask? Whether it's ask us, ask inside the app, ask somebody else on the outside that you haven't had the time or courage to ask, but you know that it would help you so much if you got help through it. So what's a specific question you've been meaning to ask, but you haven't had the time or courage to ask it, and you'd like to ask it today? So do us a favor, everybody, come up with one of those answers to one of those questions, a question to one of those answers, and type it in the comments in the chat for us. All right. So what's a challenge that you're facing, or what's a question that you've been meaning to ask us that you really would love some help with? Comment that below. Now we'll give you a minute, and I'll actually let Teresa talk today. I promise I'm going to let her talk.
I don't have anything to say.
Yeah. But we also do have like a list of questions that we're going to read off in a second, but we want to make sure that we, for anybody who's here live, that we tackle your guys' questions first. Mm-hmm. So that being said, how are you doing today?
I'm great. How are you?
Good. Do you want to talk about the podcast real quick for people while they're typing it in, like some of the differences and updates that we're doing for the podcast?
Yeah. So we've been talking about like for the Modern Leadership podcast, we used to actually do the workshops, and then that would be put into the podcast as a podcast episode. But what we found was that there were some specific topics that we actually wanted to cover just on the podcast that we wouldn't cover on YouTube. And also we got a lot of feedback from people stating that they wanted to kind of hear more of a behind the scenes from us, and just kind of like these different topics that normally we don't cover on the workshops. So what we're doing now is we're having a podcast every week. It's Monday. Just on Mondays, and it's just like normal. It's a weekly podcast, but they're just a little different. They're a little shorter as well, because that's another thing that we got feedback from, because of course these workshops are much longer. They're 60 minutes sometimes, and people don't really like, I mean, not everybody, but some people don't like to listen for that long. So the podcasts are a little bit more, how would you call it? Like concise, intimate. Yeah.
Yep. The one that we did last Monday was the first one that we made this adjustment on. And Teresa and I were talking about things that we're currently struggling with or going through, the challenges we are facing, literally the question that we're asking you today, and what we're doing to combat those challenges. So you can see it more from like a behind the scenes thing, because I know a lot of times people think we don't struggle through things. They think we're not growing anymore. And we're like, no, like we're in the exact same spot you guys are. It's just that we're looking for other ways to continue to improve, because like they say, new level, new devil, right? The first thing when you first start a business, you're like, what should I start for a business? And then when you figure that out, then it's like, how do I find customers? And then you figure that out and you're like, how do I find the right customers? Like every single thing is like, oh, how do I do less? How do I make sure that I can, reach more people without having to spend so much time or energy? There's all problems that you're continuing to grow through. And it's something I feel like it's a never ending thing, which is a great thing, because there's a new level that you can get to, right? And so those are some of the things this next week, next Monday, Kurt's working on a podcast for you guys. We're going to share like things that our clients have been struggling with. And believe it or not, it's Trisha who talked about boundaries right here. It's not specific to what Trisha went through, but we've been actually helping people through one specific boundary in their life. And we've noticed that when we help them through it, it like opens the door for so many other things in their business and so much growth. So we've actually explained like the issues that we've seen a lot of our clients go through, what we've actually take them through to be able to help them through that process. And then after that, like how they can actually continue to lean in and get great results. So that's a new podcast that's coming out next Monday. But like Teresa said, we wanted to take it from, instead of just repurposing these workshops, which The workshops are still going to be here. We're still going to be crushing on YouTube. Like YouTube, this is going to be your space to continue to learn and develop new skills. We're not going to be teaching skills on the podcast, but we're going to be teaching some or sharing some of the behind the scenes stuff. And we're also going to be doing some live coaching sessions. So some of you guys have asked for it. We're going to be doing live coaching sessions here on YouTube, and then we're going to be posting them up on our podcast. So that's the only thing that's going to be the same. So if you listen to a coaching session here, it's going to be the same as the one on the podcast and vice versa. All right. So, okay. I think that was stalled for enough time. All right. So Trisha says, my challenge is the one that I sent you. It's about boundaries. So I'm going to fast forward. I'm going to pull up Trisha's and we're going to talk about it and then we're going to help her out. All right.
Okay.
All right. So here we go. Trisha says, I'm really focused on the hours I spend at my day job and building better boundaries with hours working there. I have a goal of getting from 55 to 60 hours a week down to 48. So I would love some help in ways to create a better balance to be able to have more time for my business. Do you want to tackle that one or do you want me to? Because this actually does have a piece of the boundaries in.
Go ahead.
Go ahead. Okay, so a couple of things, Trisha. Let's think about this. Like first off, mindset wise. All right. So like I said, we're going to talk about mindset. We're going to talk about tactics, and then we're going to talk about accountability, which is based off of what you hear today. What are you committed to taking action on? Okay. So when it comes to mindset related to this, a thing that I constantly remind myself is it's not about the hours that I spend. It's what I do that makes me the most effective with my time. So what some people would think is they think, well, if I'm going from 60 to 48 hours, I'm going to be less effective. And the answer is no, as long as you don't believe that, because you are going to become more effective the more hours that you take away from having to work. Let me give you an example, right? If you're spending 60 hours and you're tired and you're exhausted and you're bringing in negative energy into work because you're like, I'm here all the time, you're going to be wasting more time at work. It's just the way that it works because you're not going to have the time or the energy. And then that negativity and that resentment that can kind of come up, which definitely came up for me, will get you to not perform the way you want to. And so believe it or not, going from 60 to 48 hours is the best thing for you, but also for the business and company that you're working with. Because when you take it to 48 hours and you're like, I should only do the things that are most important, you're going to be a little bit more laser focused on that. You're going to have more time to rest and recover and come back and actually be able to show up on your A game. So it's just a matter of like reframing, finding this thought in here of like, actually, this is going to be the best thing for my job. And you can even sell them on that because it's going to be true. Like when you go from working 60 hours to 40 hours, I mean, just point this out. I just want you to become aware of the quality of work that you're going to be getting from me and the more effective that I'll become, because you're going to be taking things off my plate and I'm going to be making sure that I focus on the things that move the needle the most, fastest, right? So that's that first part is like really realizing that actually when you do less work, you're actually going to be more effective, right? Now it's the tactics piece, right? It's like, how do I find the time and really work in a way that does help me be more effective, but also gives me more time to be able to work my business. And that's what Teresa and I usually talked about is there's this universal principle that some things matter more than others. It's like super basic, right? But we think about it as the 80-20 rule. So what we mean is like when you think about the time that you have at work, if you focus your time and attention on the things that really move the needle, the things that only you can do, the things that you do better than anyone else in the world, the things that when you do it, it just feels amazing to you and you show up in a way that like everybody else is like, wow, that is awesome. If you spend your time, the majority of your time on that and remove or eliminate or outsource or get some type of system or someone else to empower to do the other things, you will be 10 times more productive, but you'll also be more in a more positive like energy because you're going to be doing things that you love to do. So I just talked about that related to your career, but it's the same thing with your business. Back when I was working at LAPD, we had this time where I had to work 13 days in a row. So 13 days in a row. I think it was 14 to 16 hour days. And people were like, how did you still get your business done? And it's because I realized and understood that some things matter more than others. Meaning when I have only an hour to do my business, I ask myself, what are the things I absolutely need to do to move my business forward? And I do that. But if I have 3 hours, I'm like, what are the things that I'm going to do that are the most effective to move my business forward? New things are going to come in because now it's like, oh, I have a little bit more time to do that. So it's not necessarily per se the hours that you spend, because I was spending like half an hour to an hour, but I was still getting new clients and I was still signing up people, even though during that 2 week period of time, I don't think like I don't think like that's something that's sustainable, right? But I was still able to find a way because I asked myself, how can I be most effective by focusing on the things that matter most and eliminating, removing, or outsourcing the things that don't matter. To be honest, Canva graphics didn't matter to me. Like my website being updated didn't matter to me. Like all of those things, like actually what moved the needle is me talking about how I can help people, jumping on like one-on-one calls when people reached out to me or I reached out to them and asked them like, hey, this be something that would help you? And then just supporting my current clients. And that's all that I could do. But believe it or not, those are the things that move your business forward. A lot of the other things that we think move our business forward actually don't. And you'll realize this if you go through that emergency time where you're like, I only have 30 minutes to work my business today, that your business can still move forward as long as you're doing the most important activities. So let's see. I don't believe that I will still show up effectively. Yeah, 100%. And you also said I need to be better communicating the selling part of this. 100%, Trisha. So here's how I communicated it to my supervisor and how I actually coach some people to actually communicate it to their supervisors too. Is you have to sell it to them in what's like in it for them. Okay. So when you're like, hey, listen, like I have been working, 58 to 60 hours per week, and I have not been able to show up as the person that you need me to be. I'm more snappy. I'm not being as effective as I can here. I'm not doing all of these things well. I'm having things slip through the cracks. I'm like thinking about this place when I'm off work, which means I'm not getting sleep, which means I'm coming in as a zombie. And like the way that I'm showing up, I am not proud of. And I need to set something up because I do not want to keep showing up this way. I want to show up in the way that you and everybody here deserves, which is energetic, full of like passion, really positive, motivational, like being the leader that I know that I can be. And in order to do that, it's going to require me to figure out the whole time piece, because right now working this is not getting me to show up and it's not going to get any better. So here's my thoughts. This is what I think, but I would really love to hear from you. Like, what is a way that we could like maybe take a look at some of the things that I'm doing that are the most important thing for you, that you're like, you absolutely need to do this. Give that to me. And let's find either other people to like take over or systems or things that we can put in place so that it doesn't have to all be on me, but it will allow me to produce even more of whatever this thing is that you want us to be able to produce, right? Now you have to kind of cater this to what they actually want, right? And you can even ask them like, hey, what is something that would feel so good for you in terms of a result that I could give you that would make it feel that it's totally worth it if I only work 48 hours a week or 40 hours a week? See what I did there is I kind of asking them, what would make it feel like this is the best move that you ever made by making me move down to 48 hours? Like, what would I be doing or what could I produce that would make you feel like this is the best deal that you've ever had in your life, right? So now when we're communicating and having that conversation, it's not us telling them what we're doing. It's us explaining and then really asking them like, hey, what they think the best thing is, right? And then ultimately, if you decide, and I mean, I'm just going to go down this path because most of the time people's bosses will see it and they'll be able to make adjustments. They usually don't make adjustments like how you want it to, where it's like immediately drop off, 25 hours or whatever, right? They don't usually do that. But if you have somebody who's like, no, this is just what you have to do. This is what you have to do in this process. I want you to be okay with that. And then I want you to go figure out a different way of doing something else. Here's what I mean. There's times when we feel like we should just push back on like them if we don't have a good leader. But in reality, that's going to create more issues for you. Instead, it's like, okay, I will just do the best that I can. I just wanted to let you know that this is kind of what's going on. And I still will try and show up and be the best that I can. But I know that some things are just not going to get done the way that I want them to. But I'm going to try my best. And then I want you to tactically think about anything else that you could do in this situation, because obviously they're not going to take control of that. You have to take control of the things that you can control. Now, for some of us, this meant in the police department, moving departments, moving divisions, like moving to an entirely different like LAPD station. Like there's so many different things that are within your control. As long as you're like, they've communicated to you like they're not willing to do that. Now it's in your hands and you're like, okay, so what am I going to do with this? Right. And then you can work through what that's going to look like for you. Does that make sense? All right. That was a lot, wasn't it?
Yeah, but it was great.
Yeah.
It's
I mean,
thorough.
and it's because like this is something that a lot of people go through.
Mhm.
So I mean, first off, Trisha, thank you for sharing with us, because I know so many other people just like gained so much respect from not only from you, but also like learning from this whole entire process.
Mhm.
It's really important. So when you're having those conversations, that you kind of like do have a plan about like
Mhm.
what to say and how to start it, right? Knowing that we don't know what's going to happen to
Mhm.
how the other person is going to respond, but being able to hear this out loud is going to help so many people, like as they're going through it, and maybe even something that comes up in the future,
Yeah.
right?
And I think, Trisha's already one step ahead because she's already thinking of the opportunity, right?
Yep.
That's why she's asking the question, because she knows that she wants to be solution based, not problem based,
Mhm.
right? She doesn't want to think about, well, there's nothing I can do. It's like, no, I'm like, I know there's something I can do. I just need help trying to figure that out. So
100%. 100%. Okay. Trisha, any follow-up questions? Type some question marks in there. We can do it. We can help you out. Okay, Cynthia says building community with the right people. Building community with the right people. Do you want to hit that up? It's not really like a question or a challenge per se. It's more of like what she wants, which is pretty awesome to really think about what you want. But when you think about the challenge around building community with the right people, what's the challenge? Like what's coming up for you that's not allowing you to build community with the right people? I guess
yeah, that would be a question that I would like, a follow-up question. Like, what do you mean by that?
yeah.
What do you mean about like building community with the right people? Maybe it's because she's trying to find a community and she's not finding that because it just doesn't feel right, right? So yeah, that would be a follow-up question that I
Yeah,
would have.
and let me just hit this really quickly. And the reason why we would need a little bit more information is because when you said building a community with the right people, are you talking about the right people for you to empower, or for the right people for you to like be around so that you can actually grow with them? Because these are two different things. When I
She
started
says
out my business,
social media.
I thought the group of people that I was attracting and communicating and wanting to help was my peer group, was the group of people that I wanted to surround myself with. That is not the case. When we're going out on social media and we're helping people solve their problems, we're actually creating a group where we are like the mentor in there. We have to find our own group that is separate from that so that we can actually reach out to people who are like our peers and then reach up to a mentor. This is called the 3 levels of reach. So we want to make sure that when we're reaching down and we're lifting people up, like let's say on social media, we're lifting people up. They're at a different level of growth than us. That's why we're lifting them up, right? But we want to make sure we put ourselves in an environment too, where we're also reaching out and also somebody else is reaching down so that we can reach out up to them. All right. This is the 3 levels of reach. So when it comes to being around the right people to help, that still is a little bit confusing, because like, are you talking about the right people to help? Because this is the right people to help. I mean, you're here on YouTube. We have successful businesses, and we're connecting with our family on a deeper level, and we're in the best physical, mental shape of our life. This is an environment for you to be around, to strive to continue to get yourself to show up and to stay motivated. If you're looking to create your own community, you'd have to think about like, what is it that you want to be able to, what is it you want to be able to serve people through, right? Is there a challenge? Is there a difficulty? Is there something that they're going through? Then it's a matter of like getting really good at painting a picture of that problem, getting really good at like sharing some of the ways that you can help people through that situation. And then if you check out one of our past videos in our inner circle, we talked about core values. And one of our inner circle calls was, what was it like something related to like using your superpower. Let me actually look it up right now. Basically what it is when you're doing stuff on social media, you want to make sure that it's how to attract the right clients faster.
Mhm.
So if you have to be a part of the inner circle, which is a $10 a month membership. But if you go and become a part of the inner circle, which is you clicking on the join button underneath the this video, you're going to have access to all of the trainings that we've done in the past. We did one 2 weeks ago that says how to attract more of your right clients faster. And what that talks about is like leading with problems, like painting a picture of like the problems that you help people solve, not telling them how you solve them, but just being able to be very clear about some of those problems, leading with your core values, which means the things that are near and dear to you. So if you check out this channel, we're all about building an incredibly like powerful business, but also like connecting deeper with your family and being in the best shape of your life. We're not one of those. We're all 3 of those. And so when you hear us say things like, we believe that you can have massive success in the business without having to compromise the time with your family, That is a statement that we use that's really deep in our core values. And you either feel like you're, yes, I want to get behind him, or you're like, I just want business tips. I don't want to be a part of this. And so when you lead with your core values, you will start attracting people who have the same values as you. And a lot of times those are the people who are willing to like actually get your help, right? So you're able to build that know, like, and trust. So definitely hit up that video if it's something you want a little bit more details on. But that's how we build communities. We talk about problems we can help people solve, and then we share some of ourselves and our core values and what we really believe so that people get to know, like, and trust us. That's how we build a community. That's how we built this community. That's how we built communities before this. It's all about being able to talk about those problems and then being able to lead with your core values. All right. I hope that was helpful. All right. Let's see. Shelly says, my challenge was also sent to you around staying motivated. Yes, Shelly, let's do it. Let's do it. Let's do it. Okay. So Shelly said, staying motivated in my business when I seem to be working for free. One of my big goals was financial freedom, and I'm not any more closer than I was 2 years ago. Do you want to hit that one? Because I'm hitting them all here. So
you're on fire.
Yeah, I mean, but definitely look into that first sentence. Staying motivated in business when I seem to be working for free.
Yeah. So this is why we tackle like those three things, right? The mindset, the tactics, and the accountability. We always start with mindset, right? Because we can see it in that first sentence of it seems, right? So it's kind of like we have to figure out like what's the truth, right? Like what's really going on, which is why when we coach other people and we try to get down to like the root of why they're not doing certain things, that's where you start to figure out and get more clarity around it, right? So stay motivated is another, I don't want to call it a red flag, but it's just another thing that kind of stands out to me, because like we feel like we need to stay motivated all the time, right? To like keep moving forward and things like that. But that's just like that's like a fleeting type feeling, right? And it always stems from whatever your thought is, whatever that belief is that you have about your business. So I guess a follow-up question would be, kind of explaining like, what does that mean? You seem to be working for free. What does that come up for you, Shelly?
Yeah. So what Teresa was saying, like, really connected with me too, because here's the thing. You cannot possibly stay motivated, Shelly, when you think that you're doing stuff for free. Like those two things don't go in congruence. So when I want to stay motivated in my business, but I seem to be working for free, I want you to check in and say, and ask yourself, I know you're an advanced life and performance coach, so I know you knew this is going to come, is I want you to try on for size what it feels like when you feel like you're working for free. Because I mean, we're all of these podcasts, all of these videos. I mean, the Inner Circle videos are a little different, but if you look at all of the workshops that we do, all of the coaching calls that we do, all of the bonus calls and podcasts and interviews and things like that, I could, I guess, believe that I'm working for free, but I choose not to believe that because it doesn't help me in any way, and it does not help my motivation. What does help my motivation is to remind myself of who I am helping, right? Who is coming on and watching, and who needs to hear this message. And maybe I need to get better at communicating that message to really find my true people. And it's kind of like what Cynthia was saying earlier, is like, there's a different place from like, I'm here, I'm going to do whatever it takes to find them, and I'm going to grow through it. And I know that if I keep doing what I've always done, I'm going to keep getting what I've always gotten. And this part is trying to teach me something, right? And so this whole idea of like, well, nobody is signing up. Well, then let's look at that and see what we can do differently. Because if we're doing something that we've been doing for 2 years and we haven't done anything differently outside of what we're typically doing, then we have to ask ourselves, what is a way that we can make that adjustment? What is a skill that I could learn to be able to help? So one of the things that we did, Shelly, and you know this, is as a part of the Inner Circle, I did a teaching/training around what I would teach you if I was on your sales team for a day. Now, what I did is I have been getting and still getting a lot of people reaching out to me, asking me to work on their sales team. And they're willing to pay me some pretty decent money to do that because I know how to sell things, but in a way that's just simply asking questions to help people identify their problems and then sharing with them how I could help them if they choose to go down that path. I mean, all of you guys are here Some of you guys have worked with us one-on-one, have worked with us in success pods. It's the same thing that I do through that process, is being able to help identify problems and then being able to communicate that. So in that training, I talked a lot about like, how do we do that? How do we walk people through that? How do we have conversations that lead them down the path of, am I a good fit to work with you and to be able to help you solve your problems? So if you're going through and you're like, man, I keep doing all these things and like nobody's following through, my thought is like, what is a skill? What is something different? What is a way that you can continue to try different things, elevate what it is you're doing to learn? Because once you get through that, Shelly, boom, the sky is the limit, my friend. Because I want you to think about this. All of the things that you've developed, all the skills that you've spent time and invested your energy and your money in, all the things you have learned through business, through all of the certifications that you have, all of those is potential energy that is literally locked up inside of you. And when you blast through this one speed bump, this one challenge, you learn something different, you develop a new skill, you take that next step, which is totally different than maybe any of the steps you took, and it unlocks that potential energy, it is a game changer. It's the reason why I went from $40,000 a year to $400,000 a year with being able to communicate using my skill of coaching. It wasn't the skill of coaching that did that. It was all of the things that I had learned before being piled up into kinetic or being piled up into potential energy that one challenge was trying to teach me that I needed to overcome. And when I overcame that and I learned coaching and I learned how to sell through coaching, that unlocked so many doors that actually allowed us to retire. But don't forget all of those skills that you've been time and energy that you put in. All of that stuff has really been built up. This is just that next challenge to help you be able to develop it even more. So coming back to the top, really rethinking about this. Now that we've had this conversation, obviously I wish I could coach you through it, but now that we had this conversation, how does it feel thinking about like what I just shared with you? Now, the truth is I offered you a bunch of different stories that you could decide if you want to grab onto, if they feel good to you, to help you to, yes, come up with a tactical plan on like what's going to happen next, but really to open you up to trying different things and finding a way. Because when you're in your head voice of like, I'm doing this for free, you're resenting anybody who's there to watch it. Think about this. And I know I know your heart voice, and I know you're passionate about helping people, but what would it feel like for me if I was like, just the people that are here, man, like, but nobody's paying me right now. Like my energy would be totally different than I need to help Cynthia and Trisha and Tiffany and all of these people with everything that I've got. I've got to literally help them having no expectation in return. But if they want to take that next step with me, they can, and I'll give them even more, but I got to do whatever I can right now to help them. And if I find that after time, people don't take that next step, and I know that's the next step they need to take to be able to get even more help, that I can lean into that and go, what do I need to learn to make this happen? Not what do they need to do to buy my program. It's all about what I need to learn. And when you can find that switch and you can turn that switch on, you can go, I'm ready and willing to do this. Let's figure it out. Now we can get into the tactics, right? Now we get to at what point of your, I don't want to say funnel because some people freak out about funnel, about your customer journey, where is the sticking point? Is it getting people to connect with you on social media, doing the expand part of the process, right? Is it the engaging part, getting them to know, like, and trust you? Is it the conversion part where you're making the transition into a webinar or something and people aren't buying? That's where you have the biggest opportunity, right? Is ask yourself, where is the point where people have stopped moving down that model? And that's how and where we can spend our most time. And yes, I would suggest trying something different, but I also suggest getting some help, finding a way of like getting somebody who's maybe a few steps ahead of you to give you some advice and direction. One of the things that we can do a lot of times is we start polling people who are at the same level as us, struggling with the same thing, wondering like maybe they have some tips, and they might have some tips. But remember that a part of this is, how about somebody who's actually made it to the other side? How about somebody who's actually been able to succeed in that area? Asking them and seeing what they can do to really help you is a really powerful strategy. Otherwise, if you're asking people who are currently struggling with consistency and you're struggling with consistency, it's like everybody's going to go on the inconsistent train because nobody has the skills or the strengths in that area that can help lift everyone up. But if you have other people who do excel in that, and maybe you excel in a different area, being able to connect in a way that's going to be able to help everybody, that's really where the power of like a mastermind team, for example, is. It's kind of like what we do here, right? The collective power of the community. If you tap into it, right, you can't just be a part of the community and just process of osmosis, get it. But if you connect with people in the community and you have different strengths and weaknesses, 100% that can actually help you out too. So there is a lot of other available resources, of course, like Teresa and I are available to help, but really asking yourself, like, where is that, like that catch point? Where is that point in my process of my business that once I unlock will allow me to like really take off the other way, right? So those are those two pieces, mindset and tactics. And now let's get into the commitment. All right. So Shelly said definitely the conversion. So definitely we need to talk about the conversion, right, Shelly? So Shelly, based off of this conversation, what are you committed to implementing, to reflecting on, to thinking on, actions, thoughts, all those kind of things? What are you committed to doing this week based off of this conversation? Trisha, I'm also going to ask you too, because I know I didn't actually hit that for you, is Trisha, based off of the conversation that we had about your career and your work and your hours, what are you committing to doing this next week as a result of this call? Man, I feel like I'm talking too much.
No.
Whew. We got some videos to do after this too, don't we? All right. So I want to hear from Shelly and Trisha, and let's see who else is here. Cheryl, what's going on, my friend? Cheryl's a new member of our Success Pod. Super pumped to get you in there, Cheryl. Okay, so Cheryl sent it. Let me look it up.
Yep, it's right here.
Okay. So what does the team recommend to help track your connections, conversions to build your leads community that doesn't require a degree in IT to use? So basically, how can you like track some of the things you're doing without having to use like an IT based program and all of these inner, things that you have to do? So go for it. What do you think?
Well, I think Google Sheets might be a good option. I mean, it's nothing fancy. I mean, I guess you can get fancy with it, but also just pen and paper. Like you could start off that way. I mean, once you start to get the hang of it and you start to get more into like the business and growing the business, then getting into, some type of IT stuff is best. But, you can start off just with like a journal and just writing it down that way. I know a lot of people who just love to write things down. Like the way that our mind works is that like even when you're journaling, like let's say you're doing that, or you have a diary or something like that, you're just writing your thoughts. Actually writing it can like really make it stick and like help you process certain things. So people find pen and paper to be, a really good option. So you can start off there. So if, you have a piece of paper and just write down the things that you actually do want to track, and then just start doing it that way. You don't need anything technical right now.
Yeah, I definitely wanted Teresa to hit that up too, because we're all different. Like how we do things is different.
Yeah.
I'm gonna share with you how I do things, and then I'm gonna default to what Teresa said right now, because that's probably the better way. But one thing that does come up for me is when you ask this question is like, what is driving you to ask this question? Like, is there a problem in the system that you have right now, or is it you're seeing potential problems in the future, or has somebody fallen through the cracks? Because a lot of times we can ask a question like, hey, what's the best software or whatever from this? But really understanding what the actual problem is will help us fix it better. Does that make sense? Because it's everybody's wired differently, right? Teresa says, hey, Mark, why don't you write it down? Let me tell you, I could write out the most bomb list of foods and put it on the refrigerator. And the kids are like, what does this say? I'm like, it says bacon. They're like, there's no way this says bacon, Dad. So that's not my strength. I don't do it. Like I try to journal in the morning and sometimes it works, sometimes it doesn't work so much. So really like thinking about it related to where you are and maybe something that you like are struggling with related to keeping track, then we'd ask ourselves like, what would we do differently to solve this problem, right? So one of the ways you can do that is you can write it out. You could do the digital tracker or whatever. I'm going to share with you how I do it. But it's not the best way of doing it. And that is like, I used to have a document that I would grab everybody's name. I would add everybody's email address. I would add everybody's social media account numbers and the last thing I talked to them about. And it was the biggest waste of time in my life because like all those people, like 95% of people are going to ghost you. They're not going to respond back to you. They're never going to talk to you ever again. It doesn't matter how many messages you send them or how many times you put their name into your notes. Like, it's like, oh my God, this is wasting my time. So literally the only thing that I do is as I'm going, when I'm having conversations that I feel like are a deep conversation, somebody that I can help, is I just open up my Evernote app and I write their name at the top. And so any number of times there's like 4, 5, 10 people that I can have a conversation with. And then as I'm having conversations with them, I see what's like in their best interest. Normally people will not take that step that first time you ask them. Cheryl, you're going to be an example, my friend. And so what happens there is I have a separate note that's kind of like my follow-up documents, where every month I will go in and I'll see everybody that I talked to, what I invited them to, and like them saying, oh, now's not the right time, or like, I really want to get to this in the future. And so basically that's it. I have the first on my first to-do list is like, here's the people that I'm currently having a conversation with. And then the second list is kind of like a follow-up. Like they said, not right now, or they said, hey, maybe later. And now it's just like, oh, hey, next month I'll reach out to them. And then when next month comes, I just go out and I reach out to them and I see how they're doing. And what you'll find is that they're usually still struggling with the same thing, except for they're like a month now extra down the road. And sometimes they still ask, for like a month or two or whatever. But I continually reach out to them just to see how they're doing, because after a time they see that 6 months goes by and they're like, and I'm nowhere better. And usually I'm in a wrong space, that now they're like ready to go. So that's just my process. Is I don't have any other lists. I don't share anything like I have anything else. I just know who it is that I'm currently talking to. And of those people that I've talked to, the people who are like the people that I want to follow up with because they're right for my program and I can help them. I put them on a separate list and I just track that. And I every once a month I'll go in and I'll say, oh, it's time to reach out to everybody. And then I'll just go to the document that day and just go through it. So
there was a second part to her question. I think you should hit up.
Okay. The second is I look at my goals 24 hours in a day and my tracker activities for heart, hustle, and harmony. After 2 months of tracking, I've determined the 3 are not aligned. How do you suggest we reduce each category to stay balanced and see micro process? And how long do we experiment with the revised tracker before we revise it again?
No, I think you should.
Okay. So I'm actually gonna be doing a training for Josh, because a lot of people, not for Josh, but for like the groups that I run with Josh. So for like the 626, the PCC, the Master Coach Training Program, all the programs that I have inside of our Life Coach certification, specifically about the tracker. Because the tracker is, let me just say this, it is a set of guidelines. It is suggestions based off of what we have seen has worked in the past. But what people tend to get into their brain is that it has to be followed that way or they're not going to have success. Another thing they think is like, I have to do it all or I'm not going to like actually see any results. So it's all or nothing. And so, I mean, we actually had some people on the Master Coach Practicum yesterday actually talking about like, I'm struggling with the tracker. And we come to find out that they did like so many new activities that they'd never done before, but then they beat themselves up because they didn't hit the number. And so the tracker is just hey, these are some of the things that we've seen that has worked really well. Take a look at them and see if they're going to work. Let's just say it's a suggestion. It's not you absolutely need to do this. Now you're going to maybe feel that kind of energy because as a performance coach, especially Josh, he really leans into performance coaching, right? When you hear him, like how he shows up, he will get people to take more action than they've ever taken before, which produces more results. But then there's people that are still working full-time, doing a million other things, having kids, all these kind of things. And you cannot expect to do the same thing that somebody who's working full-time from home, working a business, right? But it'll feel like you're behind. It'll feel like you suck. It'll feel like I'm not making any progress, right? So the problem is not the tracker and the activities. The problem is our mindset and how we're approaching it. And we're not thinking about what's going to work for me and my situation. Nobody in the world can design a one-size-fit-all tracker, ever. I mean, I can't tell you, I've done 72 other trackers, and you know what the one that works best? Mine. Because I've looked at it and I go, that's great for 99% of the world. That is not great for me. Now, I also am very like open to it. Like I'm like, is that an activity that would work for me or not? Maybe I'll try it a little bit, but I'm not one of those people that'll just say like, oh, I've got to do everything the exact way here, right? Now, if I find that I'm struggling in an area and I'm like, why am I not? And I look at the tracker and I'm not doing any of those activities, then yes, it's time for me to add some of those activities, right? But it's not, a tracker is not like, Moses giving us the 10 commandments. It is like, hey, these are some ideas for what to do. Find out what works best for you. And so when you think about like what has been working the most, what are the things that move the needle the most? That's what we want to do. Now, when it comes to like time, when it comes to like what we were talking about earlier, remember some things matter more than others, right? And so maybe coming up to this heart hustle harmony, right? Which is a difference between your business activities, your personal activities, and your family activities, right? Really thinking about like, which one of these areas do I have the greatest opportunities to grow in right now? And what is this trying to teach me that I can make some adjustments in? That's what a tracker is all about. It's about this thing is trying to teach me something. It's either teaching me that I need to get an assistant. Maybe I need to hire Aaron. Maybe it's like, I need to find Kurt. I need to find my number two so I don't have to do all this kind of stuff, right? There's so many things that it could be teaching you, but what it's not teaching you is that you're not good enough. It's teaching you that it's just not working for you and it's time to make an adjustment. That also doesn't mean just throw it against the wall and say, nope, I'm not going to do any of this. But it's about like really opening up and going, oh, what stuff will work for me? What are some things that I'm going to try? And how am I going to test this? Now, Cheryl, I know you're part of the Success Pod. We're going to be talking about all this. We actually have a mini tracker inside of the Success Pod that we're going to tell you, we don't want you to do all these activities because we told you to do them. We want to explore your goals and find out how those fit in there, and then add some from you and what you want and really value, and then remove some that don't make any sense for you, right? And if you could do that in a group atmosphere where you're having one-on-one conversations, it's great. I mean, it's the reason why a lot of people work one-on-one with me or work in our Success Pod is because they get that individual approach instead of, hey, follow all this list. It's like, oh, hey, let's think about what it is that you're looking to achieve and what are some of the skills that you need to develop to actually make you the type of person that would have those kind of goals. Now we're like, okay, so let's talk about like how many hours you do have today. Okay, let's think about how many people you could invite in that time. Not a blanket, everybody in their life has to invite 10, right? It's more of like a personalized thing. Of course, if anybody who's here is interested in doing that, that's what Teresa and I do, is we dive deeper into doing that. But when you have a group, it's kind of hard to do that because you don't give everybody one-on-one time for that, right? So it's not something you couldn't possibly do, which is why we have a tracker. But remember, the tracker is never the problem, guys. It's the way that we're thinking about it and what we're doing in terms of the actions that we're deciding to take, right? Instead of letting the tracker make us feel a certain way, we're in charge. We get to decide what to do and what not to do. And a lot of times it takes from trial and error. We try it, we make adjustments, and we keep getting better. Does that make sense?
Yeah.
All right. I say that a lot. I say, does that make sense a lot? But does that make sense?
You're just trying to figure out whether like you do make sense.
Yes,
I know.
Because I don't. Because most of the time I don't make sense.
No. And I think, gosh, I lost my thought. I was going to say something.
Well, I was only talking for like 45 minutes. So how could you possibly forget?
Yeah, I forgot.
Yep. Oh, Kurt says we should discuss Google Sheets and other online tools in a future episode. What do you guys think? Yes, 100%. We will definitely talk about like Google Sheets and a whole bunch of different other things that we do use, because we do use some technology-based things. But remember, it's based off of the problems that we have, because some of you guys have memories like a steel trap. You remember everybody you talk to, what the name of their kids are, all that kind of stuff. I am not the greatest with that, which is why I actually have tools to help you with that. But why would you need to develop a system if like your brain is already working like that? The truth is you don't, right? But being able to find where those like greatest opportunities are and then finding a tool to be able to help you through there, it's really a game changer. Okay, Cheryl, based off of that, what are you committed to implementing as a result of this call? So what is it that you're committed to implementing? And Cheryl, I know we actually have a call next week. So I definitely want to hear, though, in the chat. That's really going to help. Okay, so Shelly says, I'm going to be sending more one-on-one messages to start individual conversations. Shelly, I know you're part of the inner circle, even though I don't know why your name isn't green. Like it shows you're not in the inner circle. But Shelly, I know you're in the inner circle. Reach out to me via Marco Polo. We'll talk about it. All right. So we'll talk about your conversions. We'll talk about how to up it. Shoot me a message just to make sure that I remember. All right, Shelly, but reach out to me so I can get you some help. Trisha says, When I originally read this, Trisha, I thought you said you're gonna be selling your boss. I'm like, I don't know anybody would buy them. I think I remember you having a conversation about no, but you're planning questions to ask my boss and selling items for my meeting next week. Yes, Trisha. Also want to give you this opportunity too. I want you to like think through like some of the ways that you could approach it, and I want you to make me a Marco Polo, and I will so you can bounce it off of me and see how it feels before you actually have that conversation. Right? All right. Tiffany has a question. We're gonna hit that next, but let's see. Those tangible tools help me to make changes and see where I've been, where I'm at, and where I need to be. Yep. Let's see. I just told my husband I feel unorganized because I do use paper notebooks, and they're everywhere. I may have a notebook problem. I like the idea of Evernote for simplicity. Yeah, for sure. One of the things that I did, Cheryl, in the beginning is I overcomplicated everything. Don't do that. You don't need like a million systems for everything. Like, keep it as simple as possible. Remember, the more complicated it gets, the more easy it is to buffer and to not do the things you need to do. All right, let's see. Here for it. I vote you sell your boss. Let's do it. Let's do it, Trisha. Definitely do it. All right, let's go to Tiffany's question. Tiffany is how do you learn to balance giving equal feedback for strengths and weaknesses to yourself and your clients? I can point out other strengths and my own weaknesses, and it's unbalanced. Okay, so how do you learn how to balance giving equal feedback to strengths and weaknesses to yourself and to your clients? So
I'm not sure I understand.
Yeah, do you want me to hit it up? So one of the things that that it feels like she's experiencing is in the coaching process, it's very easy to go down your own head voice, right? To think about all of your weaknesses, and it's very easy to go and hear everybody else's strengths and tap into everybody's strengths, right? And so when I think about like how to balance that, I just make sure that that I look at actually both avenues. Like if I'm struggling with something, right? I don't just pretend that the head voice isn't there and then I just go to my strengths. I know that an exploration of the head voice will help me to make a decision to not want to go down that path ever again, than to explore the heart voice, right? So it's the same thing that we do, not only for ourselves, but also for our clients, right? Is to be able to become aware of the things and not seeing them as weaknesses. Let's reframe it as opportunities, all right? And so how we do that is we ask questions, like really powerful questions, like, I know this like feels like really big struggle right now, but what kind of opportunity is this going to present once you get through it, right? And so, but we're still able to like not pretend like the weaknesses or the difficulties aren't there. We're actually calling out to them, but we're calling out to them in a different way that taps them into the potential that they can like lean into, right? Now, when you say like I'm balancing equal feedback for strengths and weaknesses, this probably means, Tiffany, that there's been one or two or some type of coaching session or something that you've realized that has been a challenge that you're facing while you're going through there. So if we were actually one-on-one coaching, I would want to know, like, tell me about the last time that happened where you felt like you weren't good at balancing the strengths and the weaknesses and what was coming up for you. That, my friend, is really powerful, because when you can do that, when you can ask a question like that, now you can tell me what your trigger was, and then we can explore it a little bit deeper. Because like here, like I love being able to coach you guys. I love being able to not really coach, but being able to help like get you to see it from a different perspective on this channel. But there's nothing that's like anything close to having a one-on-one conversation or like a one-on-three, like our success pods, and being able to tackle it by going to a very specific time that happened and what came up for you. Then we know exactly which path your brain traveled so that we can make adjustments along the way and both think about things differently with our mindset, but also like the different tactics that we could use in that specific situation, right? So that's what I'd want you to do, Tiffany. Maybe brainstorm like some of the things that maybe have come up that have made you feel like you're not good at balancing it. And then from there, that's when we're going to tap into, okay, what's that head voice and how is it getting you to show up? And what is a way that you can reframe it, and maybe some tactics that you can actually implement to make sure that it doesn't happen anymore. Does that make sense? Okay, I said it again.
That's an opportunity right there.
It is an opportunity for me to stop saying it. So, Tiffany, based off of what we talked about, what is something you can commit to doing, even though I kind of like pushed you down that path a little bit? What is something you can commit to doing from this call based off of your challenge that you can commit to doing this week, right? Let's see. I'm running into this challenge right now to give what they did well and what they can improve on. Okay, my answer for what I can improve on is automatic. I'm forgetting what I see when it's on the next. The email list to give this feedback. I can remember mine where I noticed it clearly. Yeah. So 100%. Like when we provide feedback to other people, right? We can think about it in a bunch of different ways. We can think about it in like, they're going to take this in a bad way. They're going to be upset at this. Like, what if I say this and I like do? But if your mind is like, I just want to do whatever I can to help them, I'm going to communicate it in a nice way. But I know that if I was struggling with this, I'd want to know so that I can correct it. Right. And so we have this heart that we're like, we're doing this with their best interest in mind. We can't control how they show up and how they take it, but we know we can control what we write on that paper and that we do provide them with some feedback, knowing that this is the thing that if you were struggling with it, you'd want to know it too. And when we lean in with that energy, it helps us to show up and to take the actions we want to take. Same. This is head versus heart, right? Head voice is like, what are they going to think if I say something? But do they think that I'm like correcting them or whatever? Like, who am I to actually correct them? I like all of these voices, right? But instead, tapping into your heart voice of like, I wish like if I went through this, I'd want to know that, right? And I can also be compassionate when I'm saying it and just say like, hey, this is one thing that I was just thinking about, like in doing it kind of like in a way where you're not like just skating around it, but you're actually communicating it, but doing it in a way where it feels like it gives it the greatest opportunity to be received right. Knowing that you never know, like you could send the most beautiful email and they can be like, I hate Tiffany. Why is she so mean to me? But remember, it's always their interpretation. All we can do is show up as the best versions of us. And when we lean into the best versions of us, just see where the chips land. All right. Because that's the best thing, really the only thing you can do. It's the same thing we've been experiencing with our kids, right? You can only show up as the best version of you and guide them down the path. Every time you try and force them, they decide to take an entirely different path, right? And this is just one of those things is you got to focus on what you can control, right? All right. So it's already been an hour. I'm going to answer one more of these questions. All right. Let's go through Mike's. All right. Kurt loves it when I do my voices. My bad, bro. My bad. All right. So let's go through Mike. Okay. So Mike had a question. He says, I find it challenging to rediscover what my true passion is in regards to wanting to help people. Part of me wants to continue motivating and inspiring people to accomplish their health and fitness goals, which is where I started, while another part of me wants to dive into life coaching a little bit more. But how do I decipher if either of these are the path I truly want to take? I'm leaving this one for you.
So it takes me a little while to process.
Let's go. I'll allow that.
So he wants to know how to actually figure out which path to take.
Correct. So like, I know you're already seeing this, but reading into it, like he's thinking there's a right and a wrong path and he thinks he needs to choose now and he can never choose differently later. And then all of if I jump into life coaching, I have to develop that skill. And if I develop that skill and then it doesn't work, like all of the head voices are coming up and I can read it in this, but what would you say to him? Not knowing that you can't coach him and find out what's actually coming up for him.
Yeah.
What advice would you give Mike?
Well, let's see. He has a second part here, so it might give a little bit more context. So he says, the other day on the live call, you mentioned that it took you and Teresa 7 to 8 years before you truly started generating income after investing a lot in yourselves. How were you able to maintain that positivity, knowing you were investing a lot of money when you wouldn't see a return on that right away, or no guarantees that you would ever see a return? So, yeah, I mean, we can kind of see ourselves kind of like comparing like different journeys, right? So there's a lot of different reasons why this happened. So what we shared was like, there were so many years that we went where we were focusing a lot on our physical health, our mental health, and just like developing skills in order to see the results. And we were still trying to figure out what that looked for us, what that path looked like for us. But we were actually like, if maybe you can kind of share a little bit more about like what I'm about to say. But I think we were thinking this way in those moments when we weren't seeing success. We were like, there's either or, right? Because I mean, even specifically like the business that we had, we're like, we have to make this work and there's no other way. So there was that mindset piece that kind of kept us stuck.
Yeah, 100%. And Tina kind of snuck in here and she did a one symbol answer. And her answer is and.
Yeah.
Let me pull it up. Bam. Look at that. Look at that. Look at that. We went to our last retreat some of the life coaches actually got that tattooed on their body because what we find is with the human brain, we have an or situation. Like it's this or that. Like there's a right or wrong answer. And there's a beautiful place in the middle where it's like, and do you know you could do both? Right.
Yeah.
And it's like, it gives us an opportunity to see things differently when we say or, and we say it out loud and we're like, wait, no, it doesn't have to always be or. It could be an and, right? And so here's what I would say about both of these, Mike. I'm gonna give you a little bit of a speed run, okay? So the first one is like to rediscover. You said to rediscover what my true passion is. That means that like you're discovering, you've already discovered it, right? So it's like it's just a matter of like you're telling me already like what it is that you want to do here, right? But when it comes to getting started helping people, how you do that is not as important as what you're doing, right? Helping people, helping them with their problems, and being willing to do what it takes to be able to help them, right? How you do that, whether you do that life coaching, whether you do that as a fitness coach, whether you do like all of those things are beautiful places for you to be. And you don't know unless you start doing. So I know, Mike, back in the day, you and I were both fitness coaches. Like we were going to the trainings, we were doing all those kind of things. I wouldn't be where I'm at right now, being able to be home, not having to work full time anymore, like being able to do this with my business and also doing this with my beautiful wife, right? I wouldn't be able to do that if I hadn't done that in the first place. But if I had also stuck to, no, this is the way that I have to do it, it would have sucked. I would not be able to do what I'm currently doing right now, speaking for all of these different places, having a YouTube channel, all the great things that we have here going on. I had to do that first thing before I even figured out what the next thing was. And so getting into I think that there's a right or wrong decision here is basically going to spin you into doing nothing. And then a year from now, and then 6 years from now, and then 12 years from now, you're going to still be thinking about this, but you don't know until you do, right? And so reframing it and thinking about like, well, I don't know until I actually do it. So what if I step into it and I do it? Because the only thing that like the thing that I will happen no matter what is I'm going to grow as a human. Whether you're coaching through fitness or whether you're coaching through life coaching, it doesn't matter. You're going to grow as a human because you have to grow. It's what happens when you say that I want to start helping people. It's just a natural progression, right? And being able to tap into that where it's like, there's not a right or wrong answer. I'm going to lean into whatever one I'm feeling most connected to right now. And I'm going to start with that, knowing that this could be the thing that gets me to my next level, but I'm going to grow through so much for it too. Now, what Tina said is what a lot of our people do. So a lot of our people who go through our life coach certification, they also are in MLM, and they also are a life coach. And now what that does is it makes you have so much more value that you can offer people because now you can do both. So for example, I get on and I'm like, hey, I'm talking to somebody. They're like, I just want to lose weight because I feel like I'm not role modeling the right activities for my kids. I'm so stressed out all the time. Like I'm just so angry all the time. And I know that if I lost some weight, I would feel better. I'd have more energy and I would be able to show up. Now, no matter which one of those paths I've gone down, can I help them? The answer is yes. I can help them with their mindset around life coaching and getting them to find out what the tactics are they want to be held accountable to. Or I can say, would you like me to help you with like creating a nutrition plan and a fitness workout routine, right? Now, what happens is if you decide to do both, you just like elevate yourself entirely differently, right? So let's say I'm on a call with you and you're like, Mark, I want to lose weight. I'm like, okay, there's two different ways you can work with me. Number one is if you're just looking for like a meal plan to follow and exercise programs and a shake and a way of like simplifying it, that's the first way. And that way is like kind of like more of a do it yourself kind of way where I will have like a group atmosphere to be able to help you out, but it's really you doing it on your own and me being there to help support you. But the second way is working with me one-on-one. This is for people who want to get faster results. They want to actually get help through the situations that they're going through because in a group atmosphere, it's a lot harder to do that. Now, this is a higher investment, but it's also like a quicker way of getting results. So I just want to ask you, which type of person are you? Are you the type of person who likes to do things on your own? Or are you the type of person who likes to get that additional support? I'm not deciding for them. I'm letting them decide. And through that conversation, you know what usually happens? How do I do both? And you're like, oh, okay, never even thought about that. How about the and for them? They could do both of them. And then it gives you the opportunity, depending on that person and where they are, to go down what path that they choose to go down when you offer it to them. And this is a different way of thinking, but you cannot get there if you do zero. If you try to outthink yourself, thinking you're going to be able to figure it out by not doing, you're not going to be able to figure it out, right? You have to wait until you put it out in the world. You cannot perfect inaction. You can't perfect anything, but really you cannot perfect inaction because it's just going to be in your head. And so it's just a matter of like going out, starting that thing, starting to ask people if they want your help. Of course, there's like sales and marketing strategies, all things that I teach you inside of the inner circle, right? And then, of course, working with us closer if that's something you want. But there's going to be some skills for you to learn through the process. But in that process, you're going to be able to find out what is your true passion. For me, I found out that health and fitness coaching, even though I lost 100 pounds and I helped people lose a lot of weight, wasn't really as deep a passion for me than family connection and creating a business. And so when I found out that this was like my stepping stone instead of like the one ladder that I was going to be able to use to climb to the top, I realized that that was the stepping stone that I needed to be able to get into what I'm doing today. And so that's how I was able to reframe it. Now, the second part of your question, this one will go much faster, is you said, where is it? How are you able to maintain that positivity, knowing that you're investing a lot of money when you wouldn't see a return on that right away? Because that is not the truth. I always saw a return on every dollar that I spent. Because not only was it actually working on me, it has to work on you before it can work for you. And in order for me to like lean in and to learn and to develop any of this stuff, even Facebook ads worked on me, which means I learned that skill, but it also helped me when it comes to my energy. It helped me come with my motivation. It was like, I'm taking the steps I need to take to learn the next thing. And that was something that didn't just help me in business. It helped me in every area of our lives. See, what we think is when we sign up for a program and that program is just in this one area, that if like I don't immediately make money, then like I'm not gaining anything from this. That is false. You are gaining so much, but if you believe that you're not gaining, you're not going to capture any of that and you're just going to waste your money. Instead, when I join something, I go all in. My energy is at an entirely different level, and I know that it makes me a better dad. I know that it makes me a better husband. I know it makes me help focus on my health and fitness even more, even if it's a YouTube course. So don't forget all of the indirect things that thing does for you. Because if you're fueled thinking that, oh my God, this is a big waste of my money, this is a big waste of my time, like I'm not making this money back, you're focused on the wrong things. Remember, for you to have outward success, you need to have inner growth. Inner growth doesn't happen at the speed that you want it to, but it also doesn't happen when you're focused on this isn't working. When you're focused on this isn't working, you will go out and manifest that it's not working. You look for all the evidence to stop, and it's because your brain wants you to get back into your comfort zone. But there's a different place. Remember, we talk about this all the time. It's your heart. It's what people need you to show up for today. It's that person who's out there who doesn't know how to get past this thing. They're struggling with their health. They have obesity. They have diabetes. They're like all of these things. And they're like, I just need someone to come across my newsfeed today and inspire me. And maybe that's you. Maybe it's because your story connects with them and nobody else's story would connect with them. And when you remind yourself that this isn't about me, this is about them, that's when you tap into your heart voice and you get yourself to show up on an entirely different level. And you take every single one of the things that you've paid for, every single of the groups that you're in, and you help make those things develop you into the type of human that you can actually go out there and help serve people. And when you reframe that, and it's not like I'm doing this so that I can get more money. It's I'm doing this so I can become better myself. I can actually elevate myself to the next level, which is automatically going to make the other things happen. It's going to make it so that I can make more impact. It's going to make it that my value goes up, and it's going to make it so that other people see that they have value too. So don't forget those lessons, right? So when we believe that we're wasting money, we believe, oh man, it must have been so hard because you guys weren't seeing results. Oh, in 7 years, I was an entirely different person 7 times over. It just took a little while to catch up. Everybody looks at the catch up part now and going, how do I do that? But they forget there's that other part, right? It's growing and actually focusing on the things that you can control, right? Which is the internal stuff versus focusing on things that you can't control, which is the external stuff. So, all right. Anything else?
Mic drop.
I didn't say, did that make sense?
Good.
I was like getting in here like, don't do that. All right. All right, guys. Wow. That was an hour and 15 minutes. Thank you guys all for your questions, for your participation. As you go through this, I definitely want to get you to refocus on these 3 things, all right? Your mindset, how you think about things makes a huge difference. The tactics, what to do afterwards. And 3 is the accountability. How can you put it out there to someone else to let them know what you're committed to doing so that it's not just something that's going to die inside of your own brain? Whenever we focus on a challenge, guys, we typically go to the actions. We typically go to what are the tactics? There's 2 other parts. We need to grab all of these parts, put them into synergy. And that's literally what we do inside of our inner circle. Now, I know this is something that's actually being live streamed to everyone, so you get an opportunity to see what we do inside of the inner circle. If you found this to be helpful, definitely check out what this is like by clicking on the join button inside of YouTube. You'll be able to see how to get access to calls that are just like this twice a month, where we teach deeper skills, like some of the things that we talked about, some of the different recordings that we have, but also like how we can help personalize this for you and for the team. And then, of course, you get access to some of the videos early, as well as our inner circle program inside of our private app, so you can actually have deeper conversations offline. But lastly, I just want to say like how much I appreciate everybody for being here, for being willing to lean in, to have these conversations, to talk about the things that you're struggling with, because talking about it and identifying it is a huge step. So many people just do this. They go through what my mentor calls the drift, where everything is just fine and good and fine. But good, like they say, is the enemy of great. And if we really want to achieve that greatness, we have to be willing to tackle these challenges, not just by ourselves, but with other people. And thank you for doing that with us. We appreciate you so much. We normally read the question of the day, but it's like way too long, way too over right now. But we appreciate you guys for making it here. Thank you for being willing to lean in and lead from the front. Keep crushing it. Have a great weekend with your family, and we'll see you guys next week. Bye, everybody.
Bye.